Coming in, ladies?
And out of 5 photographers, we have John Snelling and Mark Hopkins, and somewhere Harold McAleer, right at the door. 2 of our photography artists are not here. My grandson, John Schbach, whom most of you wouldn't know because he lives in Belmont, but his mother grew up here, is my daughter. So Harold Smith is someone most of you know, and I guess he's not available today, but his photographs are here. So, Harold, would you like to start out and say something?
All right, that's not quite alphabetical, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be alphabetical?
No.
In the interest of brevity, I will be short.
You're kidding.
All right. These are representative of my pictures, some of which appear in the Lincoln Journal, which is covering this affair today, thanks to its editor, Peter Costa. So
Thanks for the plug.
Right. So I have 3, 6, 7 pictures here and 1 over there. And most of them were taken around where I live. I live on the river. So next to the last house before you hit Wayland in Lincoln. And with a really long zoom lens, I can see Lee's Bridge. So I must have taken 1,000, 2,000 pictures of Lee's Bridge in every season's snow shot someplace and fall and everything else. And I'm fortunate because where I live is where Farrah Pond empties out into the river. So when the pond is filled and flowing, and that creates some open water and some motion that seems to attract wildlife. So the heron shows up all the time in season. I haven't seen him lately, and there's always some action out there. Heron in particular. Here's Lee's Bridge. This owl, affectionately called Oscar, was in resident on 117, the second house on the left after you turn left onto 126 heading towards Wayland. And the woman who owns the house, Mary Remy, called me up and said, Oscar is in the tree, Oscar is in the tree. So I was able to get that picture.
He looks like a fox.
Yeah, it's a screech owl.
So it helps protect him.
I guess so, I guess so. And the sunset standing on the deck of Gilbert Winchell. If you know Gilbert, he's the last house down there. His family owned the 200 acres ever since 1926, but that's another story. And that's standing on his deck looking towards Sudbury at sunset when the ice was just breaking up about a year ago. And there's a robin, and there's the fox who tours the neighborhood down Lincoln Ridge condominiums and Farrah Pond Village. So that fox comes around all the time. He's got something in his mouth, and I don't know what it is.
He goes by the Dawes home, which is close by you.
Dawes, same one probably. Yeah, he's got a big loop. Or
They
she.
said he has a regular pathway through there.
Yeah.
And that if they catch a mouse or anything, they just throw it out. And the fox comes and gets it.
Great. So that's my story. Now we'll hear from Mike Hopkins. Now we'll hear from Mike Hopkins.
I caught Holy Hell from the gallery owner one time when I only been doing this for about 5 years. And she said, I want to have your artist statement. And so I wrote an artist statement that basically said, my images are my statement. You know, if you want my statement, go look at what I do. And she raised her eyebrows and she said, no, that is not what you do for people. She said, people want to know, you know, what you're thinking and what you're seeing and why they should be looking at photographs. So, here they are. But what I try to do with these things, for years and years I've gone up the Adirondacks with an old friend, and we hike around, and several times over the course of hikes, he would say to me, how come you see things that I don't? said, you know, I walked right past that, and then you came along and said, look at that, and I said, wow. And so when I started fooling around with a digital camera in 2004, I figured, well, let's start showing some of the people, some of the things to people that I see, in case they don't see it. And so that's really what these 4 things are. We've taken, thanks to Harold, I now know that it's Beaver Brook. I didn't know the name of that little brook that runs under Mount Misery and then down into Farrow Pond. There's a bunch of ponds down in there. And so that's Beaver Brook. And this was just a reflection in one of those ponds in the fall. There's a little bit of a flow up above, so there was bubbles in the water. So this is actually foam, and the reflection is behind it. This was, if you know the area, the trail, I think it's called Lone Wolf Trail or something like that, goes along Mount Misery. There's a kind of a boardwalk bridge over a little stream. And I was just looking straight down, and I took this picture of the foam that was going hard. You can see from scale here, there's a little piece of the leaf, so it was right there. This is just another little eddy off to the side of the stream, and that was a reflection that was in the water. Harold and I think, share a lot of interest in reflections. I think they can be fascinating.
Harold Smith.
Harold Smith, yeah. We know there's 2 Harolds here.
Would you speak to him, to his pictures?
Yeah, we talked about it.
No, now, would you say any more about Harold Smith's pictures?
Well, not other than I think they're really interesting, and no, I would highly commend them. He's I think doing the same thing I are is seeing things that some people might walk past. And
He's
then,
also an accomplished watercolorist.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
that his main bag is watercolors.
Uh-huh.
So photography is kind of a recent adjunct,
Okay, good.
but he brings that sense of composition and
Uh-huh.
color.
So this was just something we were cruising in Maine a couple of years ago, and I took that. I love sunsets, and sunsets can do a lot for people. And this was in Galapagos about a month ago. And that particular bird, if you know anything about the Galapagos, how many people have been to the Galapagos Islands? None? One. 2. Okay. No, just one. You may have read that one of the real signals of evolution on the Galapagos Islands are the finches. When Darwin went down there, he noticed that all these little nondescript black-looking birds hopping around had different bills. And research has been done extensively after that to associate this with evolution, because apparently there was one species of bird that arrived, God knows when. And as they spread out around the Galapagos Islands, they adapted depending on what food was available. In one place it would be cactus, another place it would be seeds on the ground, and another place other kinds of food. So there are 13 species of finch that have evolved from this one waif that arrived on the island. This has a very thick bill. This is a medium bill for chopping seeds. I've got other pictures of the cactus finch, which has a long pointed bill, and all came from the same species. And interestingly, there's a couple named, I can't remember their name now, who have been studying for 20 years, and they are finding evidence that this evolution is continuing now, and it's documented. So it's really exciting to see that it's not just something that's happened over the eons, it's going on in our lifetime. So anyway, so that's mine, and right.
Okay. John Snelling, tell us
Okay,
about it.
I'm John Snelling. I've been an old guy here, been around the town here a few years. And this is an eagle with a nice little fish underneath, and he started flying around the nest. It was a big nest. They have quite a big, large nest. So I took this picture all by mistake. I'm out on the golf course, so I'm the heck with the golf course now. So I like to take pictures of birds in flight. So that's what my theme is here, is flight. Although I don't know whether we can call this guy in flight. Technically, he's running across the water. These loons, they run from one end to the other, and those powerful legs, they just go like the devil. You can see all the weight behind here. And the other birds they're in Florida, and they sort of got something in their beak. And this is in Concord, Massachusetts, and this is Florida, and this is up in New Hampshire. Well, the balloon pictures are in New Hampshire. Now this is the spotted eagle stingray, and they're in the headwaters of yeah, what do I want to call this place? Yeah, if I look right here, I can tell you the power plants. And the water is nice and warm, and last year in Florida it was very, very cold. So these stingrays, they just flutter a little bit in the water, and then like they do here, like this first picture, and then they just kind of fly into the air. So this guy went up and came down and went up again, and I was just happened to catch him, and that was the only one I caught of the whole thing. So I was just kind of lucky to get that.
Pretty amazing.
And this sequence is kind of nice. I just sit there and stand there and put it on a tripod and have a remote control, and there will be a post sticking up here, and they'll come into the post, and they just come in just like that, and it's just pretty to see them come in.
Cormorant.
Yeah, the cormorants. And that's a common cormorant. So that's it. So no more golf for me. I'll take my camera and hang around the golf course on the outside taking pictures. Thank you.
Kristen, would you?
Hi, I'm Kristen Key. I am not the photographer for John Spock. I am just the one who was walking alongside him for most of these photographs, walking or diving alongside. His photographs are split into two locations. One of them is here in Lincoln, Massachusetts, and the other is in Eleuthera, Bahamas. We do live in Lincoln Woods, and we have our pup over there in the corner, puppy dog.
Which pup? She calls me pup, but the dog is down. The other dog is down here.
So just out of necessity, taking him out to relieve himself, we just realized how beautiful the woods and nature is here in our backyard. So these photographs here are just taken in some trails right outside of Lincoln Woods. I think it's Iron Horse Trail is the official name of that stretch of woods, kind of going along to Mount Misery as well. These are just some grasses. John would speak much further to each one. Here is the moon rise in between the trees, the sun rise with some trees and twigs throughout, and then a beautiful sunset in the fall. The next three are all taken John's copy, and
I have a couple of questions.
I'm sorry.
Do you use simple point-and-shoot cameras like this one, or do you have, SLR-based bodies with lenses and a whole?
I used to carry all those lenses years ago with film, and when I got into digital in 2004, I said no more. So it's all a camera I can put in my pocket.
It's pretty amazing because it looks like the same kind of quality that
you can get it. You can get it. Well, if you know Photoshop, it really helps.
It's a point and shoot, which means the quality is not as good as an SLR, but the lenses are smaller. Now my buddy,
Yes.
Ron, should he care to speak to it, uses a legitimate SLR. He has to have a small pickup truck with him.
Okay. All right. I happen to live next door to someone who has given up his photography equipment, and his photography equipment is just fantastic, and that's what I'm using. I only have two things, and a camera itself and a newer type lens. Otherwise, I use all of his stuff. So that's my.
My last question is, all of these are nature animals, no people. Why is that?
People everywhere.
Well,
People.
No portraits.
Okay.
I think it's what he said about he sees things that others don't see. And so these are images that you might not really be aware of, whereas we're all sort of aware of each other and people. And certainly I'm sure all of you take some pictures of people. But
Sure.
this is sort of, that special artistic thought.
Well said.
I think, I know speaking for John that you really can't recreate art like nature produces for you. So it's just capturing the art that's already made by nature itself. So nature itself is art, and it's just the capturing of it.
Yeah, I forgot that there was another picture of mine too here that was added later. That is taken over at Great Meadows. If you go over to Great Meadows and go to the far side of the, where the trail goes along the river and take a left, and you keep going until you're off the reserve. There's a wonderful area up there. It's all mossy, and that's between two ponds. I just love it up there. For those of you who haven't been there, it's great. Okay, thank you.
What town is Great Meadows in?
Concord.
It is in Concord, because I get the two confused.
Well, it's kind of Concord on the Bedford side.
Because we've been up there also, it's absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Actually, the Sudbury River all down through Lincoln is part of the Great Meadows Wildlife
Okay,
Reservation, so my stuff is in a Great Meadows down in Sudbury.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It's a
so
long
it covers
road.
all that as well as the reservation you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Federal government. Fed.
Not reservation, refuge.
Refuge,
National
not
Refuge.
refuse.
Okay, okay, and you want to get your copy of the door?
Just copy the thank you.
Okay.
It's a little cream and sugar.
Okay, I'll see you slow. I did some. You did some. Wayne?
You're excused.
Claremont grandson.
Probably between the corner and the stairs.
Did you write your phone numbers down for the
Yeah.
Yeah. You know this guy? Peter Cost.
Some of it.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Hello.
Are you a drone star with my face?
No, not really walking as well as I might. My hands are
PT or?
No, so that doesn't help.